What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. About time. Now, just want to address this quickly. The reason why I didn't upload yesterday, I had some outside endeavors I had to deal with. That is the reason why I did not upload yesterday. But in the meantime, I did work on CM Punk's title reign video you guys wanted a few weeks back. I've been working on that. We're around the 30th minute. I'd say we're about 40% done or something along the lines of that. I'll give you guys an update when we finish the script, because then it's going to be the editing, and that won't take very long. It'll probably take 2 days, I think. I'll definitely give you guys an update on that. Now, on the topic of this, well, for some reason, I was interested in doing some lower mid-carder. I often make these occasionally, and the choices in my mind this time around were Viscera or the FBI. I was so damn close to going with the WWE's version of FBI, and I even made a thumbnail, but decided in the end that we got to show some love to Sean O'Haire. Fresh out of the purchase of WCW, O'Haire was brought into the WWF, and other than a small run with his buddy Chuck Palumbo, was back to developmental. He improved there and was brought back to the main roster, and the reason why so many people speak positively about O'Haire is his unique look. His look easily makes him stand out. Add to that, he looks and is intimidating. He wasn't an out-of-this-world worker, but his moveset is something else. He was hitting swanton bombs, F5s. It was impressive stuff. So it's often perplexing as to why WWE didn't push him. He had a huge upside, and this brings me to the devil's advocate. O'Haire around early 2003 debuted this extremely creative character, and basically this man was causing chaos without outright causing it. He was making the viewer question everything, trying to bring them to go against what society says and do what they really want to do, and at the end he'd be like, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Alright, let's get into it. So around January 2003, vignettes aired of O'Haire's arrival. He was trashing people for paying their taxes, said that paying them are un-American, and asked the viewer, what has the government done for you? And another vignette, he told everybody to follow their vices, advising people to eat what they want, not go to church, all kinds of things. He was being hyped up for weeks on end until he debuted on the February 6, 2003 episode of SmackDown. At this point, there was a lot of hype behind Sean O'Haire. These vignettes showed that this man could be something special. A lot of people were hyped, and it's often said that those vignettes were something special to this very day. So on this night, O'Haire randomly approached Brian Kendrick and praised him for standing in the ring with The Undertaker. Since Kendrick was desperate to make it in the WWE, O'Haire suggested he streak. Yes. And he said his famous quote, of course. Kendrick ran around all naked and even made it into Stephanie McMahon's office. This showed that O'Haire's storyline had an extremely convincing charm to him. He was able to have others do what he saw fit, and I just wish they did more with this. Like having Sean ask somebody to turn on their partner, attack somebody. I think that would be cool. At one point, O'Haire even convinced Dawn Marie to flash the audience. And I know these two were loving every second of that moment. Taz was like, oh, that's why they call it the Mellon Arena. Wow. Despite O'Haire's occasional appearances, he had yet to officially debut. That would occur on the April 10, 2003 episode of SmackDown. Rikishi on that night was a guest of Roddy Piper's on Piper's Pit, and for some reason, those two were still talking about the coconut incident from 19 years earlier. But anyways, O'Haire randomly came out and clotheslined Rikishi before whacking him with one of those chairs. Piper opted to follow up with a sequel to the coconut incident by destroying it over Rikishi's head. Random duo, but on paper it looks good. O'Haire gets to learn from one of the best, and in storyline it makes sense. Piper was going to use this big guy to do his dirty work for him. However, nobody realized that he just turned into a random guy because of this. With that said, Sean enjoyed the previous week. He had fun and told Piper that it's an honor to stand in the ring with him. However, he wasn't out here to kiss ass. He just wanted to learn from Piper's mind. Suddenly, though, the Superfly randomly came out and, of course, was greatly pissed off Hot Rod. He told him that there's a problem here, and Piper responded saying that he's got a problem as well. For some reason, O'Haire disappeared, and Piper took a beating. Upon his return, he knocked down Snuka, and Rikishi was the one who arrived now. The Devil's Advocate was severely overpowered, but he got distracted and failed to do anything following this. Rikishi didn't stay down for long and told him that at Backlash, his ass is his. And with regards to Roddy Piper, well, he told him to diss these. I don't know what he's saying there, but they had a match the following week. Piper took a beating once again, but O'Haire interfered and showed off his athleticism and technique. He even hit this reverse Death Valley driver by the name of the Widowmaker. About their match at Backlash, yeah, it was pretty damn forgettable. Rikishi early on was all fired up, but Hot Rod interfered. O'Haire began trying to wear down the big man, and this went on for a while. The Widowmaker and the Roundhouse go south, leading to the comeback. I don't know why Rikishi's wearing this shirt, but he backed his ass up. Well, almost, because Sean launched Rikishi's ass out of his face. Piper made a random interference, but it didn't lead to good for either man. A few seconds later, though, he was whacked with a coconut. Rikishi turns around and boom, Widowmaker. In his first match back, Sean O'Haire was victorious. He showed off agility, power, and speed. It was a rare combination. He had a lot of skill there, and as he says, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. The match itself was just there, It wasn't, oh, this is insulting to me, but a lot of people hated it. They did not like it. in my personal opinion, it's not going to be something you're going to be thinking about an hour from now, let alone a day from now. Now that Rikishi was in the past, Sean O'Haire was thrusted into a huge storyline. On the May 1st, 2003 episode of SmackDown, Roddy Piper hosted his talk show, Piper's Pit. He praised Sean big time before introducing Mr. America, and when he came out to some very familiar music. Of course, Hot Rod had doubts over the status of this Mr. America, and this led to Mr. McMahon coming out. And those two, they had a whole entire thing. That's a story for another day. But on the topic of Sean O'Haire, since Mr. America had an ironclad contract, hey Big Show, McMahon wanted that mask off. And this involved Piper and O'Haire doing something about it. They failed, but this was clearly not over. The duo even invited the man who wasn't Hulk Hogan to Piper's Pit. This is because the match was happening at Judgment Day between the two. America's telling Piper straight up that he was whooping his ass. And I would talk about this, but we're missing the point of the damn video. It's about Sean O'Haire. There was a fan out there waving the American flag, and Piper instructed Sean to go after him. In the ring, those two brawl, leading to the heels gaining the upper hand, but suddenly though, the fan made a run in and Sean randomly tackled him. Piper accidentally pulled his leg out and had a huge look of embarrassment on his face. Sean's like, I don't want the publicity, and because of what had occurred earlier, McMahon seemed to believe that Sean was remorseful over what went down, but refused to see that Roddy was the same. It didn't matter because all the boss wanted was for Mr. America to go down. This match at Judgment Day, not something you should even think about watching, but since it's Hulk Hogan, Mr. America, it obviously meant he got the W. The match was also the beginning of the whole Zach Gowen and McMahon feud. Clearly incensed without Sunday when McMahon talked and slapped some sense into Piper. But this didn't work, and instead O'Haire held himself responsible for the L on Sunday. So he wanted to make things right. How's that? Well, Sean O'Haire wanted Mr. America in the ring tonight. Upon hearing this, Hot Rod was over the moon and McMahon was convinced. However, he said that if Mr. America wins, Piper is fired. Yeah, about that, McMahon also added the stipulation that if America loses, he must take a lie detector test. This is a pretty big deal for O'Haire. It was his first ever SmackDown main event, and not only that, but it was against one of the biggest wrestlers of all time. So let's talk about it. Initially, O'Haire seemed to have bested America with his strength, but that clearly wasn't the case, and he was reliant on Piper's interference. Because of this, he took control. America was being worn down for a very long time, and it was the most Hulk Hogan match ever. You know, he makes the comeback, hits the strike, a boot, and then a right to Piper. The leg drop is there, but Piper dragged his leg, and there's McMahon. He had America arrested for a bunch of things and even had Zach Gowen arrested as well. Because of all this chaos, Sean O'Haire won by countout, therefore saving Roddy Piper and forcing Mr. America to take a lie detector test. This didn't involve O'Haire nor Piper, and instead, he faced Chris Benoit the following week. Similar to his other matches, Sean's power helped him greatly. It didn't neutralize Benoit's intensity, of course, and so Roddy Piper had to get involved, and even then, it almost didn't matter. As Piper's locked in the crossface, O'Haire penalty kicks Benoit in the back to win it. It's a huge win, and while Benoit wasn't in the upper echelon, he was certainly close. Around this time period, the duo of Piper and O'Haire wanted tag team gold. Piper even asked Eddie to let him hold the title for a moment. After he declined, they approached Tajiri and offered sushi in exchange for a second with the belt. Yes, they were actually like, oh, since you're from Mexico, we bought you this. Since you're from Japan, we brought you this. Girl had enough, but Sean's like, we lied. Of course, Eddie was furious. He was all angry with what had transpired, but Tajiri fixed everything by spitting that damn tequila in their faces and reclaiming their titles. So obviously, they weren't idiots. This led to a one-on-one match between Latino Heat and the ex-Devil's Advocate. You guys know why I'm calling him that. Early on, Eddie was somewhat overwhelmed, but he caught Sean off guard. Piper once again interferes. Frog Splash goes south, and on the outside, Tajiri gets a taste of his own medicine. Sean catches Eddie to score the W. Another big win once more, and because of this, a tag title match would be booked for the June 26th episode of SmackDown and MSG. This unfortunately turned out to be O'Haire's last major match in WWE. Eddie was too quick early on. Tajiri, same thing, but Piper's influence led to O'Haire turning up the intensity. He launched Tajiri, kicked him hard, and in was Piper. Hot Rod was just provoking the champs. O'Haire wore down Tajiri, and the fans tried rallying him on, which led to the champion dropping him with some sort of slam. Both guys made tags, and it's Eddie who won this battle. The other two get involved. Tajiri spits the green mist, and Eddie hits the frog splash for the 1-2-3. Quick match once again. Quick match once again. Watching O'Haire's matches for this video, none of them seem to have surpassed 6 minutes. But every time I watched one of those matches, the crowd were reacting to his moves. If you doubt it, watch the matches himself, because, as I said, he had a unique moveset. But following this, Roddy Piper was abruptly released from WWE. He had went on HBO and spoke about the negatives of pro wrestling such as drug use, and the company didn't like this. Piper even claimed that HBO made him look bad and distorted the interview to fit a certain agenda, but it didn't matter. He was gone. The Wrestling Observer at the time reported that there were plans for Brother Love to replace Piper as O'Haire's mentor and to bring back the Brother Love show, But that never went down, and O'Haire was a regular on Velocity for no particular reason. This man went from beating Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit to being a mainstay on the C Show. And obviously they weren't as big as they were a few months later, but that was something at that time. They were solid. Since Piper left, it was an awkward situation for the man. They didn't really think much of him, which I find extremely odd because he checks off a bunch of those boxes. And around November, he had a motorcycle accident which left him out for a few weeks. He was back in OVW and started competing in house shows, but unfortunately, he was released on April 3rd, 2004 due to O'Haire himself asking for his release. According to him in an interview, he didn't like the way they used him. WWE didn't like the way he wrestled, and it was mutual. They agreed to separate. There was this report that got me laughing from the time, or April 2004, saying that O'Haire, according to the reports, didn't do enough to get over in the eyes of management. Like, everything about this guy screams unique. And thus his run in WWE was over. A run that never probably got going. And he did appear a few times in dark matches in 2006, but it didn't lead to much. I personally think it's a shame. You guys expect it. I feel there could have been a second chance in that weird ECW around 2006. I think they could have done something with him there. But on the topic of O'Haire in general, it's questionable. Some say he bombed the live promos, and according to Jim Cornette, he couldn't use his tools properly. But me personally, I think if he had support in the company, then he would have been on his way. He was a brute force. He's extremely athletic, unique ass look with the spider, tattoos, the trench coat, the fresh character, somebody who could cause chaos without actually getting involved. And his in-ring skills weren't obviously out of this world, but he wasn't bad. He had the whole martial arts background, and of course we gotta mention his damn moveset. It was so damn distinctive for the time period. He's always gonna be a huge what if, and Arn Anderson himself considers Chuck Palumbo and O'Haire to be the biggest underachievers in WWE. He feels that if they didn't have the WCW stigma towards them, their runs would go down different. I do believe that somewhat, but the pairing with Roddy Piper also hurt him in my opinion. He had a cool character, yet nothing went down. All he was doing was putting his arm around Piper, smiling, and doing his dirty work. That's literally what he was doing with Roddy Piper. If Piper wasn't around, who knows how things would have went for him. They probably would have forgotten about him anyways, but it would have been nice to see the Devil's Advocate character actually continue past WrestleMania 19. Because as I said, there was great potential there. I just think it would have been fresh and unique, and it's a damn shame how things went. Alright, that's it for this video. I want to know what you guys think of Sean O'Haire in general. Please comment down below. That's the first video. Make sure you hit the Swanton bomb on the like button, and perhaps the prophecy on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.